Today we're talking about Morgan Stanley's recent layoffs and what it means for operational efficiency in the finance industry. Did you see the news?
Yeah, I did. It's always striking when a big name like Morgan Stanley announces job cuts. They said it was to improve efficiency, right?
Exactly, and that's a pretty common phrase now in the industry. But I wonder, is it just about efficiency, or is there more behind these decisions?
Well, besides streamlining, I think it reflects broader market pressures. Banks are facing increased costs and tighter margins, especially with current economic uncertainties.
True, and with the U.S. political climate shifting, like with Trump proposing new tariffs, global banks are under even more stress.
Tariffs definitely make things trickier. For a bank with international operations, any global trade tension can ripple through their business.
It reminds me of how banks had to adapt after the 2008 crisis. They trimmed down, automated processes, all in the name of efficiency.
Absolutely, but I think what's different now is the speed. Technology is pushing firms to adapt much faster than before.
Right, automation and AI are changing the landscape. Do you think these layoffs are about replacing people with tech, or just cutting costs?
Maybe a bit of both. Automation can handle repetitive tasks, but there's also pressure from shareholders to keep profits up. That often means job cuts.
It's tough for employees, though. One day you're part of a global team, next day you're facing redundancy.
Yeah, the human side often gets overlooked. Even when it's about efficiency, the impact on people is real.
I read that Morgan Stanley wants to stay agile, but do you think that constant restructuring actually leads to better performance?
That's a good question. Sometimes too much change can disrupt workflow and morale, but if done right, it can make the company more competitive.
I guess it depends on leadership and communication. If people know why changes are happening, maybe it's easier to accept.
Communication is key. Without it, rumors spread and anxiety grows. That can hurt productivity even more.
Speaking of anxiety, the finance sector has always been known for high stress. Layoffs just add to that pressure.
For sure. And it's not just Morgan Stanley. We've seen other banks announce similar measures recently.
It feels like a trend. Do you think this is a sign of bigger shifts in the banking industry?
Possibly. The industry is evolving, and banks have to keep up with fintech startups and digital platforms.
Those startups are nimble. They don't have the legacy systems or huge staffs that big banks do.
That's why banks are investing in technology, but also why they're forced to make tough decisions like layoffs.
The irony is, improving efficiency often means letting go of experienced staff who know the ropes.
Yeah, and that experience can be hard to replace. Institutional knowledge can get lost in the process.
Do you think companies underestimate that loss when they restructure?
Sometimes, yes. It's not always easy to quantify the value of experience and relationships.
I wonder how this affects client trust. If clients see constant changes, do they worry about stability?
That's a valid concern. Clients want reliability, and too much change can make them nervous.
On the flip side, showing adaptability might reassure some clients that the bank is future-focused.
It's a balancing act, really. Change is necessary, but stability is valued too.
And then there's the topic of government regulation. Do you think stricter rules are pushing banks to be leaner?
Regulation definitely adds to operational costs, so efficiency becomes a priority. But it's also about risk management.
Risk management has always been a big deal in finance, especially now with market volatility.
Exactly. Uncertainty around tariffs and politics, like Trump's proposals, just adds another layer of complexity.
So in a way, these layoffs are a response to both internal and external pressures.
I'd agree with that. Banks have to navigate a challenging landscape, and sometimes that means tough choices.
I guess for employees, it always feels personal, even if it's just business for the company.
That's the harsh reality. But the industry is also offering new roles in tech, data, and compliance.
So it's not all doom and gloom. People can reskill or move into new areas as the industry evolves.
Absolutely. And I know some who have transitioned to fintech and found exciting opportunities.
It's almost like a game of musical chairs. When the music changes, you have to find a new seat.
That's a good analogy. Flexibility is crucial, both for firms and individuals.
Looking ahead, do you think we'll see more of these efficiency-driven layoffs?
Probably, especially as technology keeps advancing and competition stays fierce.
I guess the big question is, can banks maintain their core values and client trust while constantly evolving?
That's a challenge. It takes strong leadership and clear vision to strike that balance.
Maybe it's about finding the sweet spot, efficient operations, but also a human touch.
Agreed. At the end of the day, finance is still about relationships and trust.
Hopefully, banks remember that, even as they push for operational efficiency.
For sure. And for those affected, new doors might open. Sometimes change leads to unexpected opportunities.
That's a hopeful note to end on. If you're listening and in the finance industry, what changes have you seen? How have you adapted?
We'd love to hear your stories and thoughts. Thanks for joining us for today's discussion.
Until next time, keep an eye on the markets and on how the industry is changing.
Stay curious and stay resilient.